either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And today I didn't really have an intro. I wanted to do something about these anacondas don't want none, but I couldn't get
You can do
figured
push-ups,
out.
you can do sit-ups, but this anaconda don't want none unless you got buns.
Yes, we are doing the classic 1997 Anaconda for our, I guess, semi-aquatic creature movie.
Yeah, happy Shark Week. Let's do Anaconda.
Yes. Yeah. So, for those who don't know, Anaconda is a natural horror film about a documentary crew who becomes the target of a deadly anaconda after a hunter forces them into its territory.
I say, yes, the anaconda is deadly, but really the danger in this film is man.
It's one of those stupid ones, yeah. No, I don't remember when I actually saw this movie. I'm pretty sure I saw it when I was a bit older, but...
Yeah, I was gonna say, this movie has lived in my memory since it came out. I know I didn't see it in theaters. However, it feels like almost the instant it was available to buy on DVD, it was also in Blockbuster, and thus my friends and I watched it.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw it on like some sci-fi channel or something, or...
It was on TV quite a lot.
Well...
And not just in America, but in other countries. This movie played endlessly.
Was not on AFN.
It was not, that I know of, but it was, like, really heavily in, like, South Africa had it on a lot. I know it was on in the Sci-Fi Channel here. I know I've got a friend in Canada who said that it was on her TV quite a lot growing up on, like, the equivalent of MTV-style channel, where it's just, like, on for no reason.
Yeah, and I know I saw it around the same time Komodo came out, so just kind of about that time frame probably when I saw it. So I would have been living in Germany at the time. This
came out around the same time that, like, natural disasters in general were, like, not necessarily good. No one was, like, excited that they were happening, but we all saw them. We all watched Twister, we all watched Sharknado, and we all watched Anaconda.
Twister's one I haven't seen yet still.
You now live in Twister territory.
I know. It's been on my list, it's
bad.
I know.
It's not as bad as Sharknado, and it's not as good as Anaconda. Because despite this movie being garbage, it is actually kind of good. For a lot of reasons that we'll get into slowly as we piece this monstrosity together.
Yes. So, Anaconda was directed by Louis Losa, written by Hans Bauer, Jim Cash, and Jack Earps Jr. It stars John Voight, Jennifer Lopez, Eric Stoltz, and Ice Cube.
Yes. So that's two people who you probably know better for their music careers, but at this point in time, both of them had, like, already established an acting career. So, like, they weren't new to movies. This wasn't, like, their first gig.
I'm actually the exact opposite of this. Oh. I'm more familiar with their film careers than their music careers.
I do think that J-Lo at this time, while, like, her music was fairly big, I do think that, like, when people saw her face, they definitely thought wedding planner, as opposed to just, like, oh, the singer. Like, you knew she sang, you knew she had good stuff, like, you knew her songs, but, like, you also recognized her from films.
Didn't The Wedding Planner come out a little bit after this, I think?
It did, but, like, she had been in quite a few other things. She had, like, I think at this point, like, 10-ish recognizable, like, appearances.
So I have it noted. I didn't realize this, she's actually been acting since 1986 and had been in 6 movies and 5 television shows before Anaconda.
Yes, okay, so I was pretty close.
Yeah, and a few years before, she was Made in Manhattan.
That's it.
And then was in The Cell.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, she was, like, people knew her face. People knew that she, like, could act.
Sorry, this was a few years before those two.
Yeah, still.
Yeah.
Like, people, like, we still knew her. Like, we didn't, like, again, I don't think at any point in J-Lo's career did we, like, assume, like, that was definitely an actress. Like, it was always like, oh, yes, someone who is good at singing and is decent at acting.
I think I've only seen movies. I know, like, maybe 1 or 2 of her songs.
I doubt it. You know Jenny from the Block, and I know you know Jenny from the Block.
I know that is, like, the one that I know, but I couldn't point to any of her other music out.
I am so disappointed in you. And then Ice Cube himself, like, if you were in the music scene, you knew Ice Cube from his music. If you were in the movie thing, you knew Ice Cube from his movies. Like, the man has like 40 plus movie credits.
And see, I'm the exact opposite. This is probably the first time I realized who Ice Cube was.
No, okay.
And I didn't even know who Ice Cube was. I'm just like,
oh, we grew up in such different schools. Despite having a very, like, private Christian schooling, we were really into hip-hop for no reason. And also rap. And you might not like Ice Cube, you might not like his rap, but you have to admit that Straight Outta Compton did change how the world recognizes rap. And so, like, we knew who he was. And again, like, we knew him from his music. We had seen him in movies. We knew he had, like, I think by this point, directed, like, a handful. But, like, just like J-Lo, like, his visual face, that was his acting side. And then, like, the music we recognized differently. Like, you knew they were the same person, but they didn't, like, cross over like how our dear sweet boy from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Like,
Will Smith.
Yeah, that man's acting and his singing career, like, are one. Like, it is, like, that is him.
Yeah.
These two people had, like, different personas almost.
Well, and even then, Ice Cube before this, the two movies that he had really been big in was 1991's Boys in the Hood, as well as he'd been in Friday prior to Anaconda.
Yes, but...
So, drastically different movies from Anaconda.
But now that we're talking about him, both of those movies had been fairly well done. And had been well received. Mm-hmm. So he saw himself as, like, this up-and-coming actor when Anaconda happened.
Ah.
He signed on because the other people on this list that are in the movie, also big names, also big actors and actresses. The only one that, like, to him, he saw as, like, in the same boat as him was J-Lo. And even she had, like, several, like, things underneath her. So he really did see himself as, like, this up-and-coming star. Because he really wanted this entire career in the movie industry, which he eventually got.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep in mind that in his head, and in a lot of these people's heads, they are big-name actors.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be big-name actors. And this is a movie by a director who... He's done some, not a lot, he's done some other stuff.
So yes, I wanted to bring up this guy. I looked up his filmography. So he's a Peruvian director.
Yes. Who
previously directed action movies prior with 3 of the 5 taking place in the jungles of Panama or the Amazon. And one of them's like and one of the other movies he did was like some sci-fi dystopian movie as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, since then he has done, I think, The Sniper and The Specialist. People will recognize him for those. And recognize that those are both good movies. Anaconda's not one of them. But it's his number one for most recognizable movie.
Yeah.
You definitely know the, like, poster from The Specialist. You just might not recognize it.
Okay. So for Bauer, one of the writers, this was his first movie, but he also went on to do Komodo, one that terrorized me as a child.
A good movie.
As well as he did the story for Titan AE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a jump, but all right.
Cash's first movie was in 86, and that was Top Gun. He also worked with Epps Jr. on Turner and Hooch, as well as Dick Tracy and later the Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
Yeah, those are big ticket names. So again, while we go through this movie, my dear friends, my dear listeners, I want you to keep in mind that these, with the exception of the director, whom he was more well known in Peru. He had done TV. He had done some Peruvian movies.
He did like a show that has like 200 and something episodes.
Yeah, like he's not like a nobody. He just wasn't well known in the U.S. audience.
Obviously.
Yeah, and continues unfortunately to only have really 3 credits to his name here, but in Peru, not the same story.
Yeah.
So like these actors legitimately thought that they were getting involved in, like, the next Jaws.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see that, because Voight, big name actor, he's been doing stuff since the 60s with Midnight Cowboy, Deliverance, as well as later on Mission Impossible.
And also,
Mission Impossible, I forget, was before Anaconda.
Yes, it was. So, like, he was, like, top-tier actor. Yeah. And also, you all know him, of course, as Mr. Sir from Holes.
Yeah, that's right, I forget that. He's in that. Yeah, the asshole redneck.
Yeah. The guy who's trying to quit smoking.
Yeah. As for Stoltz, he's been working since the 70s and had a small role in 1982, or he had a bigger role, but he was also in 1982 in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
With our beloved Nicholas Coppola.
Yeah.
But he was also in Pulp Fiction.
Which, he won a supporting actor award for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, these actors believe that this is going to be something big. They've been told it's going to be something big. They have not been given the budget for something that big, though. And they don't know that, I don't think.
Yeah. So, also, something of note, all 3 writers went on to do the sequel, Anaconda Hunt for the Blood Orchid.
Tell me, though, how many of the actors came back for any of the sequels?
0.
Yeah, not a single one.
And I've seen every single one.
Yeah, and they're great. But yeah, there's a reason none of the
not.
actors came back.
Yeah, the third one's got, what's his name? SpongeBob dude who, Baywatch guy.
Baywatch guy, yes. The Hoff, I believe is his name.
Yeah, David Hasselhoff, yes.
Yes.
I couldn't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But in regards to this movie, there's not a lot of information or in about this movie or about like snakes in movies and their history.
Yeah.
Like we had with Jaws or Lake Placid, but I do want to go over some of a little bit because I did a little bit of digging outside of what was even available for the movie.
I am proud of you.
So I do want to give credit to a couple of the relatively comprehensive lists on snake movies from CaliforniaHerps.com and IMDb, as well as some Wikipedia articles, the press kit and the making of featurettes that you can find a couple of them on YouTube, and they're really minimal. They're not great or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, there is some cool behind the scenes shots.
As well as abookofcreatures.com.
Very nice.
Yeah. So a little bit about the history of what I found on snake movies.
Okay.
So snake movies, common trope in natural horror films, spy films, they've been involved in movies for a long time. People
have always been scared of snakes.
Yes. And if you go back to like a lot of the early American creature features like Attack of the Gila Monster or it's just regular creatures, just large.
Those were my favorite though.
Yeah.
Those are great.
They've got charms to them. They're not good, but
they're bad, but like also just, the idea of a giant tarantula walking through downtown, a little funny, a little goofy. Love it.
Well, I was exploring a little bit. I mean, we have shark movies obviously before Jaws as well.
Of course.
And we have regular snakes as well as giant snakes since the dawn of cinema.
Of course.
I mean,
not only are they like a top fear, but like it's hard to get away from the imagery that snakes create.
Yes. And Anaconda is in a way the snake version of what Jaws was, but just in a more cult following way than anything.
Yes, it skipped the like critics review good that Jaws had and went straight to cult classic.
Yes.
Nosedived in.
I mean, we've had giant snakes since early movies such as King Kong in 1933 and The Lair of the White Worm in 1988. As well, large snakes have existed outside of film for quite a while too. I mean, we look back at older mythologies like Quetzalcoatl and the Aztecs, Jormungand, I butchered that. And like the Nordic traditions, I mean, how we have Leviathan in the Hebrew mythology. But there are other lores. When we get to Brazil specifically, because this movie takes place in Brazil, there is a couple snake deities. There's the horned snake, Boyatata.
Okay.
As well as Boina, or Cobra Grande, which
I know what the last one means.
I heard about this one through River Monsters like years ago.
Me too. I loved that show.
And this is why I want to bring up this one. So it's a giant intellectual anaconda with powers to memorize and kill by stealing shadows, and it can even take human form.
Okay, that would have been so much better than this.
Yes, no, exactly.
That should have been what this movie's about. But unfortunately, it's not. That's way cooler.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of Brazil, there's the Yakuma, or Yakumama, the mother of water from Peruvian lore, as well as there are other accounts in the real world, not just from mythology.
Oh, sure. And then on top of that, just in general, like, speaking from someone who has friends and family members who go outside and, like, look at or try and catch wildlife for funsies, the concept of a giant version of literally anything in the outdoors has always been a thing.
Yes. And so, one example is the famous case of Percy H. Fawcett, who claimed that during his 1907 expedition, he had seen a 62-foot anaconda.
See, the reason you know it's bullshit is because he calls it an expedition.
Why is that?
Because expeditions were for rich people to go and, like, tootle around and look for stuff. Sometimes they found things. 9 times out of 10, they ate the wildlife and, like, came back and were like, I have discovered nothing.
Unless you're Darwin and then you eat everything and you just...
Eats the wildlife.
Yeah.
Eats the wildlife, says he found something, and then we spend a long time discovering what he actually really did discover, which debatable on, like, what parts do what and how directly that happens.
Yeah.
He had some good ideas. His drawings are very pretty.
It's a good start. Everything has to start somewhere until you get more information.
It looks like a lovely holiday.
As well, there's the other case of a 50-foot snake by Colonel Remy Van Leerde.
Who also probably went on an exposition.
No, it was actually during, if I remember right, it was during one of the World Wars. He supposedly took a photo of it over the Belgian Congo.
Ooh, okay, that's a little bit closer to actual science.
Well, he did take a photo of it. They're just not sure on, like, how close he really was to the snake and whatnot.
A little Loch Ness Monster sort of thing going on.
A bit.
I love that.
And also, though, I know, it's probably because my phone's been listening to me rant about shit.
It knows.
I got a very poignant and suggested excerpt from the Joe Rogan interview with Forrest Galenti.
Oh, yes.
On the same thing. And he pointed, and he had an interesting idea that he says there's a possibility, he doesn't 100% believe it.
Oh, sure.
But there's a possibility that megafauna exists in these areas that are so hard to get to, but they also live in such small numbers because they have to consume so much around them, and
Sure.
there's no competition.
And as someone who grew up on the internet and spent a good deal of their time with friends being sent, like, absolutely bonkers videos, the number of, like, questionably photoshopped giant snakes eating crocodiles, children, goats, you name it, being found from Florida to the remote Amazon or, like, the Congo, like, you name it, snake found eating, usually child.
Yeah.
Like, those videos were, like, everywhere, especially when this movie came out.
I'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
So, but these stories, although most likely not real or exaggerations, they're still fun stories and something that sticks in the consciousness.
And every once in a while, one of those, like, actual stories would happen where it's like, snake ate man-sized crocodile, and, like, 1 out of every 10 is real. But, like, that one keeps you going. Yeah,
exactly. And from what I could tell, really up until Anaconda, most of the movies containing snakes were either used as weapons or they were extracted for their venom, which was then used as a weapon.
I love the concept of, like, someone wielding a snake like a whip as a weapon.
Yeah, that's like how for Beverly Hills Ninja made me want to slap people with the giant fucking fish.
Yes. I think a lot of the times, too, like, thinking back onto my older movies and TV shows and even radio shows that I like to peruse in my free time. So, like, we're talking, like, 20s, 30s, 40s. It's still a pretty common trope to, like, have the snake or a venomous snake from fill-in mystical faraway place here. Like, that's a really common trope. In fact, most of the great mystery writers or novels, like, one of them usually contains, like, some deadly snake poison.
Yeah. No, exactly. But outside of that, they also appear in mass, such as the case as 1983's Copperhead or 1988's Rattlers.
Which is a little different, partially because, like, actual snake masses do actually happen and are actually terrifying. So, like, that one, I think part of the reason why Anaconda works, whereas some of those movies that focus on, like, quantity over, like, giant don't stick as hard, is because A, it's a little too close to real, and while it is scary and spooky, real doesn't hang with you quite as much as, like, a, 40-foot python?
Yeah.
So, like, close.
That's why Sharknado stands out more than Twister.
That's true. That's why 5-headed Shark Freak stands out better than 2-headed Shark Freak.
Yeah. Even
more sharks.
Yes. But also, there are giant snake movies such as 1983 Spasms, which has some pretty bad but fun effects if you get a chance to watch. I think the full movie's on YouTube.
It is. It is free on YouTube.
So, That's about as much as I could find on the history of snake movies. It's not extensive and kind of unfortunate a little bit because it's an interesting topic because we do see a lot of them, but they're not explored or as like they don't seem to have the same cult following that like sharks do.
And I think part of that is strictly because of this concept of Shark Week. Mm-hmm. We looked at that with Jaws and how like the Discovery Channel and Nat Geo sort of channels, mostly Discovery at the time, but like it has spread since, like there was this focus on like, oh, we recognize that sharks were a little easier to like target, make a villain, and like then have people go out and get them, and that be a problem. Whereas like at least here, if there is a giant ball python running around Florida, it's not supposed to be there. Someone released a pet, or it was like a pet's child that is now like terrorizing the Everglades. Like if someone like makes those the bad guys, it's really not as big of a problem.
Yeah.
So we didn't have this like need to like backpedal on the unrealistic fear of the snake. Most people also weren't like running into the potential for giant snake in the wild, whereas shark, if you go on vacation even to the beach, that fear sits there. That like the idea that a shark could, and then like later on, like people were learning that bull sharks were going up the Mississippi, which they do, but it's a bull shark. You're probably fine.
Salmon sharks terrified me as a kid.
Yeah, like it's a shark. It could probably get you. It probably not gonna. You got other things to worry about, like the flying carp. The ones that jump out of the water and smack you across the face.
I was in Alaska, so that wasn't really...
They're a problem here.
Yeah, I know they are.
It's terrifying. But like, so we didn't have any problem to like backtrack like we did with the shark problem, where people were actively saying like, let's just go get rid of all of them, causing a huge problem with the ecosystem. But also like, sharks, it's easier to make a TV documentary about them because they're more mysterious, they're bigger, and they have the like personification ability, whereas snakes don't really have that. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to have a diver in a suit and like one or two sharks telling you about the shark, showing off the shark, whereas the only person we really had who had even the ability to go out, find giant snakes, and show off giant snakes during this time was our dear beloved Crocodile Man. And he focused mostly on crocodiles. He did do some snakes, but like he was also based in Australia. He wasn't coming up to America Hollywood grounds. Like we thought this was solely we thought this was solely an like not our problem. Yeah. So like we didn't have the like rush to create a Snake Week to like then have that in people's consciousness.
Yeah, there's no Spider Week, there's no Bat Week, there's no anything else. It's all Shark Week.
It's just Shark Week. And while Shark Week, especially like in more recent years, has developed into all of these other creature flick movies and just awareness for marine life in general, there never was this push to like try and solidify all of the snake movies or bat movies into one conglomerate because they are so loosely tied. Whereas with shark movies, I think it's a lot harder to differentiate them. Because there's really only one shark, now two, that you can claim is the killer. There is Megalodon and the Great White.
Tiger sharks, bull sharks.
In real world, yes. But like from a movie standpoint, you're looking at kind of like two villains.
Yeah, I can see that. Because they're the biggest baddies that they can get together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas with snake movies, they're kind of all over the place. Like I said, like we're talking about Anaconda, which we're going to get to the actual snake here in a minute. I got beef. But like snake movies in general range all the way from a small venomous cobra who lives in the Sahara Desert to giant 40-foot long robot monstrosity.
Yeah. I can see that.
Like they do go together, but like loosely.
They're both snakes.
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing holding them together. There's not even, like, this trend of, like, oh, dumb person goes to try and, like, take revenge on his white whale sort of thing. Like, half the time, like, if it's one of the more poisonous ones, it's a murder mystery and they're in England. Yeah. Like, they have nothing to do with each other.
True.
Which I think is the whole reason why, yes, cult following, but a very specific, like, 5-person cult.
It's not a big cult.
No.
So, before we get into it, Chris, what are we drinking today?
Well, in honor of the trashy people on the boat in the movie, we are drinking a beer that we pulled out of the fridge.
Which actually is kind of ties in because it's a Bitburger, which I was probably in Germany living around Bitburg where I watched Anaconda for the first time. So.
And I have lightly colored blue water to go with mine.
Cheers.
Cheers. Tastes like snake hunting fuel. Delicious.
Yes. Also, I think that's like the only thing they drink in the movie is beer.
Yeah, I was scoring through it last night to see if I needed to pick up anything, and they do not consume food in this movie.
They do. I actually have a note on it because it was kind of a weird part of the food they had.
Yeah, this whole movie is just bonkers. Yeah, strap in.
So yeah, let's get into Anaconda. So we open on a scroll or a text scroll explaining that man-eating anacondas from stories of tribes people of the Amazon basin, as well as that they were worshipped and that they grow up to 40 feet. And will often regurgitate to kill and eat again.
Makes no sense, especially if you know anything about snakes.
They regurgitate to get away.
Yeah, not to eat again.
Yeah, of which the little bit of research I did, there is lack of evidence of attacks from anacondas specifically.
Yeah.
Although the reticulated python has been known for preying upon people, though not very common either.
Yes.
Also, again, over-exaggeration like a shark movie. But
I love it.
But here's the thing, they have to do this through text compared to Jaws.
Yeah, no, literally any other creature flick, let's even throw in King Kong into the mix of creature flicks. They don't bother to even hint at the snake in the intro card. There's no ripplings of water. They don't show tribes people worshiping the snake god.
Nope.
Nothing.
Just text.
Just text. From a textbook.
Yeah. Also, the green anaconda, the species specifically in this movie.
Yes.
Only grows to be about 17-ish feet. It is actually smaller lengthwise than the reticulated python, but it is heavier and chunkier than the reticulated python, which...
Yes, it is the heaviest species of snake in the world. It is not the longest species of snake.
And even then, reticulated pythons only grow up to about 20 to 23 feet.
Yeah, I mean, still terrifying, don't get me wrong. But the other thing, my other beef, and we have to wait so long, so I'm going to put it in here, because you need to know. In the movie, several times, they say the mystical green python. Which, A, is wrong. And B, the way they phrase it, the way they say it, or they say the mystical green anaconda, they don't really, stick hard and fast to what species of snake this is. They kind of just are it's a snake. Ooh.
I'm a snake.
But they don't ever call it, the magical one, or the mystical one. It's the green one, which makes it sound like green is this rare version. No, green is it's not the...
It's in its name, it's the green anaconda.
It is green. Some of them are more green than others, but they are green.
Sure.
Some are more brown than green, but it's still green. You gotta just angle them under the light right.
I'll take your word for it.
I love snakes, and I've looked up several pictures, so I was I don't remember them being that green. They are a little bit green. Just a little bit green. Mostly brown, but they're green.
Okay. Which, we do get some nice little opening credits. It kind of makes me think a little bit of and I'm not super experienced with a lot of movies that take place in the Amazon, but it felt very Cannibal Holocaust-like, where in any movie in that genre where they have to do that establishing shot over it of hey, we're in the jungle, which I'm going to get into my hatred for this part of this movie.
Yeah, I love movies that are situated in the Amazon, especially the Amazon River, because I have witnessed all the way from this, which I would argue is the worst, to Very Well Done, which was a fish documentary. But there is one of the hallmark trading cards of jungle-themed movies is an overarching view of the Amazon, and I am beginning to suspect that all of them are using the same footage from the same helicopter ride.
I can guarantee Cannibal Holocaust is not.
I know that one's not, but that one's an outlier for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
So
it's a lot of the other movies in that genre.
Yeah.
But quickly, the pristine jungle turns dark as something menacingly is hunting a younger Danny Trejo on a boat. Which I didn't even recognize him because I'm used to him as his old wrinkly ass self.
Okay, because that man from the day he stepped foot on theater looked like himself. I know, theoretically, if you look at pictures, but he's one of those actors who has always looked the way he has. kind of like how, like, Danny DeVito has always looked like Danny DeVito, even though, like, years have passed.
Christopher Walken
has always looked like Christopher Walken. Like, yes, there are pictures of them when they are younger, and you're like, oh, look at the baby face, but it's still him.
Yeah, he's still wrinkly and interesting looking. I
love that they tried to portray this as him much younger, and it just kind of portrayed him as him having a better skin day.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, this opening, it's just such a cheesy, generic opening. It's a death to start off a body count.
I do like that, but it does imply that only the white people being killed is important. Because, like, this snake apparently is a god who has also been terrorizing the native people.
Yeah. Well, no, there's locals who die. I mean, Danny Trejo's Mexican, so...
Yeah. We're in the Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it does actually. This part does actually tie a little later on. But as an opening, it just feels so generic and kind of.
It's so generic.
Boring. Also, like the nails being shot out of the board in slow motion. Like, I get what they were trying to go for. Like, it's supposed. To, this is like This is like the swimmer at the beginning of Jaws.
With one difference.
Dumber.
It's so much dumber. Because at least with that one, it sets up this level of anxiety around water in general. This one, there is no anxiety built into the water of the movie.
No, it's all about something coming up into the boat, which it doesn't tell you.
It doesn't even do that.
Yeah, because he climbs up to the... Here's the thing, because he also climbs up to the top of the boat to off himself.
This is true. Yeah, like... Very well done, like, critically acclaimed creature flicks always have, like, this level of suspense around the environment you're in, because, like, you're being hunted in the creature's world or environment, right? This one doesn't do that. Which is disappointing, because we know the snake is aquatic, or semi-aquatic. We know it goes in trees, we know it can climb, and yet they don't use any of this to build any sense of fear.
Well, no, we do know we're in its environment, because remember, we got the long intro credits of the Amazon.
Okay, and then here's my other complaint. Again, as someone who loves Amazon flicks, this is the laziest Amazon flick of almost all of them. Because we are in the Amazon, we are supposed to be here, and not just that, we very quickly learn after this poor man's death, and some very exciting board snapping montages, that we are following a camera crew who are here to film the native people of the Amazon.
Yeah.
That is their whole thing. And do you want to know, my dear friends, how many times we even remotely see imagery of the native people?
Like twice.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
No, like, hey, we should go visit like, they put no effort into it. No effort into that being the main plot of the movie.
Not at all. Also, all those animals in those cages definitely died.
I mean, in the real world, yes.
Yeah.
I can guarantee...
In the movie world.
No, in movie world, yes. In real world, I can guarantee you no animals were harmed in this film. There's some very fancy robotics happening.
Yes. But from here, I mean, it's just a bad intro. But we cut even to, like, more aerial jungle hotel in Brazil, like, deep in the Amazon, where we see J-Lo studying away in her evening wear. Which,
don't get me wrong, this is peak J-Lo time, guys. Which is saying something, because there is no down portion to J-Lo's career in lounging around a hotel room outfits. But also, like, she's meant to be the director of this film crew, and, like, I still don't know what the premise is for this film that she's making.
It is such minimal that it's just a way to get them into the Amazon.
Just so disappointing.
And on top of that, like, they shoot her introduction of, like, something's hunting her.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's supposed to, like, misdirect, but it's like, well, what's the point? We just saw a death. We know it's not gonna kill her. Actually, that'd be a fun way to screw with an audience, is you just have, like, 2 kills back to back without explaining anything.
That would be hilarious. And, like, one of them's not even related.
Yes. No, exactly.
Yeah, that would have been honestly better, because that was one of critics' main complaints with this film, but something that audience members really liked was this movie, and the actors also thought and understood that this was meant to be a serious film with very little, like, tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't meant to be slapstick humory. They thought they were going into a action horror film, much like Jaws.
Yes.
So critics saw this opening scene and, like, were immediately like, oh, this is slapstick. And then we're going to get like halfway through the film and they're going to be like, this is not meant to be slapstick, but it kind of is funny.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what creates a cult classic, as we've learned, is like...
So bad it's good.
So bad it's good. But yeah, there's not even like hints of other types of snakes in this movie. There's just the one singular snake.
No, there's a bunch of little snakes.
Kinda.
Yeah, there's a big scene with a bunch of little snakes.
Okay, yeah, but like that's like the end of it and be like, oh no, there could be more later in the future for parts 2, 3, 4, and 5.6.
Oh man, yeah, I'll get into the sequels at the end.
Yes, we will.
But here we meet Professor Kale he has the leads to the whereabouts of this tribe that they're looking for, which this whole scene is just to set the premise, to get them in there, because quickly we know there's some romantic tension between them.
Okay, but there's like this boat full of 2 options, hot people and wrinkly people. You can infer who goes with who. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's actually a good way to divide the cast.
Yeah.
Because quickly we're introduced to Ice Cube, who's the cameraman who was with J-Lo from the beginning. They're both from the same neighborhood, and they're glad to see each other. Again,
this could have been like a very compelling story that moved into horror, like focusing more on this like movie that she's like, and like this is supposed to be like her big break. This is going to be like her number one. This is going to get her in the books movie.
Yeah. Also have to mention that Owen Wilson's in it. It's one of his earlier roles.
I was going to say this is pre Knight's Tale Owen Wilson, I believe.
He wasn't in A Knight's Tale.
Isn't he in A Knight's Tale?
Oh, that's Heath Ledger.
Oh, they look the same.
Wow.
Whatever.
Wow.
This is...
that is a...
Look, they all look the same. Let's not lie to ourselves.
No, there's a big difference between Heath Ledger and Owen Wilson.
I think I'm thinking of the wrong character. But anyway. Is this pre or post Wedding Crashers, though?
No, way pre-Wedding Crashers.
Okay.
This is like his 3rd or 4th movie. He had just been doing some stuff with Wes Anderson. Like Bottle Rocket.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's early Wilson.
Incredibly early.
That's why he is a side character, not like the main character or something.
I mean, he tries very hard to insert himself into the main character role.
Yes. But we also meet the guide. For those who don't know, he calls her Jefe, which is Portuguese for boss, by the way. And they're all they have like these stereotypical roles where they're not like interesting characters at all. It's like, it makes me feel like some of these older or newer farm sim games where like all the characters are just like, I run the flower shop. I like flowers. I only talk about flowers.
Yeah, they're all real dry.
Yeah, that's just setting up a body count for this movie.
Oh, 100%. But not even in like a kind of interesting way. Because like at least with other ones that we've seen, we have quite a large number of people to kill off, thus getting a quite impressive body count. We have like 5 people going on this quest.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, so there was another part of the scene too where, again, they could have done some interesting stuff with it, but the producer and host of the show, she's like, oh, I'm so happy to be here. He's like, I chose your work because it looked promising. And the way he says it, I think the only reason she and her crew are there is because they were the cheap option.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't go into any of this of like...
The thing I don't understand is that entire character. Like, why is he here? Like, I know he's supposed to be like...
He's the host.
I know he's supposed to be the host. But like, outside of the movie world, from a writer's standpoint, what is this character's role?
To die.
Yeah. Like, they're, like, the actor is a good enough actor that even he realizes that he has, like, to add some direction to this character himself. So he tries to make him as, like, absolutely obnoxious and insufferable as possible to make him, like, the asshole character. Unfortunately, they're all assholes to each other, but not quite as bad as some of them, where it's like, okay, this is terrible.
They're mediocre assholes.
They're all mediocre assholes with one exceptional asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Gale is not really much of an asshole in this movie. Neither is Ice Cube, but...
No, but, like...
Everyone else.
But they're also not, like, any other personality.
True.
They're just there.
Yeah. No, this is... So, I wrote about this a little bit when I was going through all the Friday the 13th movies. It's...
Oh, yeah. This is similar.
They're just fodder for death.
Yeah, this is similar. Which is disappointing because, like, there is again, these actors are good enough that they could have brought real character
Mm-hmm.
to the, like, empty husks that was written very quickly and easily. And I do think they tried to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so far you can go without being on screen.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because, I mean, immediately from here, like, we go and we set off, which...
Yeah, we spend no time prepping.
Immediately, the music just feels like this childish adventure movie from the get-go.
Yeah. The music was not well received. It's one of the few ones that, like, no one wanted the CD for.
So I'm surprised that, well, that shows their ambition is they made CDs for it.
Yeah, well, again, this was the time period where there was a CD for everything. There was music specially picked and directed for this film.
Yeah, who's the composer? I'm going to pull that up real quick.
I didn't even bother writing it down because I didn't like it that much. Randy Elderman, I think. Elderman?
Oh, it's a wide range of people. It's not like one main person, so...
No, he just, like, collected music for the movie, essentially.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good way to put it. It feels like someone making their first...
A mix track?
Or no, making their first feature film and just taking free movies or free soundtracks that they can.
Yeah, and, like, we've covered other movies where, like, the soundtrack is literally pulled from, like, popular songs, and some of those have worked.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are just, like, mediocre and they get by. This one isn't bad enough to, like, hurt me, which is good, but it's also not adding literally anything. There's not any, like, suspenseful builds. There's not any, like, romantic adds to anything. There's no flair, no sparkle. It's
we'll get into the sparks of romance that this movie has.
It tries.
So we also learn a little bit more about why they're there. Because they got to restate it that they're there for the Shirishama tribe, which is a fake tribe.
It is.
But again, I like the idea of it. They
I do
just
too.
they don't really do anything with it.
No, because, like, and, like, it would not have taken very much to been like, oh, we're interested in this portion, like, add some background details, add some notes sprinkled on the table with, like, snake imagery on it, or, like, pictures of, like, the map where the village is supposed to be, or, like, pictures of, you know, weapons or jewelry or pottery from these people. Like, nothing.
No, it's
these
just
people might as well not exist.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, Owen Wilson's character has obviously something with Carrie Werher's character, and
Of course.
It's just a weird, awkward moment because immediately it starts storming over them, so nothing's gonna happen. And they find some dude who is, his name is Paul Shorn.
They say his name, you're just gonna call him the
Cerrone.
poacher the entire movie.
Yeah, or Gary Voigt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, none of these people actually have names.
Which, on top of that, like, so this dude's supposed to be from Paraguay. I don't know what accent he's trying to do because
I know this accent, though.
But here's the thing. He's not consistent with his accent. He just goes, like, says a line in one way, then says the next line a different way.
No, half of his accent is straight up just the sword fighter from Princess Bride. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
You have killed my father. Prepare to die. Which, if I remember correct, was meant to be a Spanish accent from Spain.
I guess.
No, I'm like 99% sure of this. So yeah, like, I don't understand what this man is, where he's from, what he's doing here.
No, we actually get, so here's the stupid thing. We get so much about this character because from right off the bat, the guide knows what's up. They kind of give each other weird looks.
Which is odd, because, like, they don't bother to tell anyone else on the boat.
Yeah. We find out he failed seminary school.
Which is a little funny.
Which, I guess, like...
It doesn't add anything.
No.
He does not use this information later.
Yes, he does. He uses it in one scene. And
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. It's just to set up some stupid line down the way. And
it's so far down the way, though, that I forgot that was the punch.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, like, he gets pissy when they're like, oh, you failed? I didn't fail. It's like, you got kicked out?
Failed.
That means you failed?
I think you failed.
And now he's a snake collector for clients?
I will say, though, the way he says it, if you didn't, like, already know that this was the villain, and then that's, like, you can't add anything useful to his character, he does say it in such a way that makes it sound like he finished seminary school, went on, had a congregation for like a year and then decided out of the blue that like Jesus told him to go to the Amazon and poach snakes.
I have been told from the Lord Almighty to go find snakes and purge. I will purge the Amazon of snakes like Saint Patrick did in Ireland.
Yeah, I love how your accent went from Spanish to Irish because that's very close to how this movie happens.
Unintentional too.
But that's exactly what he sounds like.
Just
migrating all over the place.
Amazingly, he has seen the tribe, so he'll show them where they are, and
very convenient that he knows where it's at.
Yeah, so here's a scene where they're making lunch too, and they've brought stuff to like make a fresh salad.
Okay, I do remember that because he like is fishing and is like, I've caught fish. And she's like, you know what goes with fish? Salad. And I'm like, in the Amazon? No.
Well, it's here's the other thing too. It's like iceberg lettuce too.
Yeah, it's the white people salad, guys. It's not even good salad.
Yeah, it's like how long is this trip supposed to be? Is this like your guys' like first days out? You guys are having some fresh food while you still can, or?
But also like you were preparing to leave to go up the Amazon. Why would you buy iceberg lettuce?
Yeah.
You were in one of the greatest food markets of the entire world, the mouth of the Amazon River, and you didn't pick up anything other than iceberg lettuce?
They had that specially imported for their taste palates.
That would be exactly what I would assume. You couldn't even be bothered to pick up, like, a fruit? What the hell? Why are you even here?
It's just there's one dumb thing after another in this movie.
This movie is set in the Amazon only because that's the only place they could think of to put the snake and not have to change too much.
Yeah.
Other than that, this could just be anywhere. This could be any jungle, anywhere. And honestly, if you change out the trees for some normal trees, this could just be like the Missouri River.
Well, you're on point there because definitely Anaconda 3 and 4 make it more domestic. So does Anaconda versus Lake Placid.
Anaconda versus Lake Placid makes the most sense, though. They had to go to Lake Placid.
They make it all domestic for budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about the budget at the end here, but like they could have done that from the beginning. Yes.
And so now it's nighttime and it's time to party with the others.
This is a weird party. It makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, the way the main two, J-Lo and Nikhil, flirt over fireflies is the most awkward and nerdiest bullshit ever.
I love how they legit wrote one of these characters to be amazed and surprised that they are fireflies. Like she's never seen them before in her life.
Oh no.
Honey, you have seen a firefly unless you live in the Antarctic. Please.
Okay, so I've got a story on that.
Okay.
So we moved back to Nebraska after a brief history, mainly living in Alaska and Germany, moved back to the States, and we're sitting there one summer night, and we're like, what are those? There's these lights, they're going on and off. Granted, I'm like in 7th grade at this point.
Sure.
I had never seen a firefly.
Yes, I want you to look me dead in the eyes and tell me that wherever this J-Lo's character is meant to be from, hasn't seen a firefly before. As a grown-ass woman making a documentary.
She's from the inner city, I don't know.
There are fireflies in the city. There's gotta be at least like a park.
I'm sure.
Like, really? You don't know what a firefly is? I could let it slide if as a grown woman she was like, oh, fireflies, I've never seen them in person.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She has never seen these things before in her life. However, like, there's no way she, like, flew into the Amazon, got into a hotel, and then immediately boarded a boat and left. Like, surely you were here long enough to have some planning.
She's supposed to have been researching this for a bit, too.
What is this issue? You know where to go? Come on.
Yeah. But shit picks up as the bugs stop flashing, and a snake kills a jaguar, which this is
odd because it's not even like next to them.
No,
it's somewhere else.
Yeah, it's and here's the other thing too. The jaguar, once it's grabbed, is so goddamn stiff.
Oh, it's stiff as a board.
It's bad modeling mixed with real action, which again is the exact opposite of practical versus or mixed with special effects.
So there is a wide mix to get the snake on screen in this movie. It runs all the way from CGI, which doesn't look too bad when it happens, to a very gigantic robotic puppet, which when the robotic puppet is on set, looks pretty good, to a large number of various puppets ranging from the inside of the snake to the outside of the snake.
Animatronics.
There's also some animatronics.
Yes.
But there is
a lot of animatronics.
And honestly, the animatronic ones look the best. The full-on handheld puppet that enters the scene halfway through this movie looks like garbage.
Yeah, there's one that has a very specific pose it does.
Yeah. This time, the snake doesn't look great yet, which is disappointing because this is our first actual, glimpse of the snake. We do see, I think, too much of the snake. We've talked about the whole idea of suspense. This is too much snake. Yeah,
we've gone from not knowing what's hunting Danny Trejo to
seeing.
Okay, we know it's a snake now.
Yeah, and it's not even like a mystery little glimpse. It's not little hints. However, while the snake doesn't look good, the jaguar stuffed puppet.
Oh, it's so bad.
It looks the worst I've ever seen.
Same with the popped out eye. Like, it's just...
I love the popped out eye.
Here's the other thing, too. So, this isn't the anacondas we see later on.
I know.
This is just a regular-ass anaconda.
Which is upsetting because that implies that normal anacondas regularly fight and pop the eyeballs out of jaguars. Which I have seen many a nature documentary, and that has never been brought up before, and I feel like if that was a real fact, I would have learned it by now.
Yeah, that's just so dumb.
Like, either jaguars' eyeballs are not in there real strongly, or anacondas are much scarier than I thought.
Yeah.
So, also, they don't explain how the eyeball leaves the jaguar's skull. I think it is implied that it squeezes it so hard.
No, exactly.
That its eyeball, squishy stress ball toy style, explodes off its head.
No, that's exactly what it's supposed to be implying. And it's just, so dumb and bullshitty.
That is the stupidest thing.
Yes. And then, right from this moment, and here's the other thing I'm going to bitch about.
Okay.
So, this movie has you can probably cut, I would say, a good 15 to 20 minutes of this movie. Because it is so much reestablishing of, every time the movie transitions from day to night, it's more establishing shots of the Amazon. It's
honestly, yes, if you cut all of that out, and if you cut out half of the dialogue between the people on this boat, which is not necessary, not even just for the plot, but just in general, half of this, half of the dialogue between these people doesn't even establish relationships between them.
No, because the next bit that we even have relationship building is we have the host golfing off of the boat while Ice Cube listens to gangster rap, which...
And I would like to point out that I am fairly certain that this predates the wide range usage of biodegradable golf balls. So this man is just littering into the Amazon.
Yeah. And I mean, this scene is just kind of to build up, maybe the host is a bit he is uptight. Yeah, but also, there's a little bit of disagreement between them.
And, granted, the props to the actors here, because they really do, are carrying the full weight of this terrible script and dialogue. Because, they do make it somewhat fun. There was definitely a lot of input from both actors. There's an interview later on with, I think, only, Ice Cube was willing to talk about this movie later on. And he had talked about how, I did what I could to, add anything to my character. I was the one who picked out music. I tried to give him personality and an accent. And it's implied that, the rest of the acting crew also did as well. Props on them because, there's nothing to go on, and they make this scene as best they can.
It makes me think a little bit of that meme where they're interviewing the guy who plays Freddy in the live-action Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And they're like, have you seen all the memes about this movie? He's like, no, the only one I've seen is the one where, everyone's talking about how this is going to be, a groundbreaking movie, and then it just cuts to me. He's like, it's just a talking dog.
Yeah. We'll have to someday get to the live-action Scooby-Doo, because that is a great example of, the reverse of how much effort is being put into the writing. And, the acting on that portion, they also put in a lot of work to get those characters, fleshed out. But there was also some, level of effort put into the set and the costumes. And the dialogue, while not great, at least had direction.
Yeah.
There is no costumes in this movie. People might as well be wearing nothing. The only person who has any sense of, identifiable outfit is our, quote-unquote, bad guy host. Only because he wears not dark colors.
I have a note later on is, like, did anyone bring change of clothes? Because they're all wearing, like, the same thing for multiple days.
This feels very much like a 3-hour tour gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, also, it definitely wasn't meant to be a 3-hour tour gone bad. Like,
no.
They were going to go up the river for several days, and then make a film, and then come back several days.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, no one changes clothes. No one has any, like, distinct or recognizable bits. Like, this would have been a great place for, like, Ice Cube's character to have, like, band tees that go with the, like, hip-hop or rap music that he's listening to that annoys everyone else.
That's his distinguishing feature of the movie. He listens to rap music.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little weird. It's not a great character building moment, but, like, it's something. Well,
it's even quickly short-lived because they're guided to a snake totem eating a man where it's re-emphasized that they worship snakes, and we get the legend of past the waterfall guided by warrior snakes.
Which makes no sense. I don't understand that at all.
Which the actual researcher calls him out on this, which again starts trying to build the tension.
I'm not gonna lie though, up until the actual researcher called him out, I'd forgotten why that man was on the boat.
Yeah.
Like, he is so useless and hardly, like, actually speaks or does anything that I just assumed he was, like, a guy on the boat. I forgot that he was supposed to be a pro researcher and part of the writing team for this documentary that we're on.
Yeah, no.
Completely forgot.
He's their professional anthropologist is what he is.
Yeah, okay. Also, I would like you to briefly in your mind compare the amount of effort that this movie, which we are now fairly well into, we have multiple times stated why we're here, what we're doing. In your head, I want you to compare how much effort and visuals you have obtained here about, like, what we're doing, where we are, all that sort of stuff, to a 15-second clip from Indiana Jones. Pick one. There's so much more density in the background of any of the shots for any of the, like, fake or even partially real, like, things that you're like, okay, I could see how there's a jungle tribe that, like, worships the little crystal head that he's trying to steal from the temple. You get no explanation. You don't know why he's there.
Doesn't he just stumble upon, like, the crystal skull on, like, some tomb or some shit?
Yeah, like, there's, like, a whole bunch of, like, different, and, like, none of them are tied together, but you don't need them to, because the background has enough happening that you can understand, like, okay, we're deep in the jungle, everyone's costumes reflect that we have, like, traveled long and hard to get here, and there's, like, stuff to look at.
Yeah.
Stuff for the character to interact with.
And in case, from watching this movie, the multiple establishing shots didn't clear it up, we're in the Amazon.
Okay. But they don't. They don't clear it up at all.
All they do is, like, serve transition of, like, okay, well, we're boating away and it's daytime. Oh, the next scene's nighttime. Oh, time's passed. Oh, we're back on the river again.
There is so many better examples of how to use, just even angle your camera slightly to show. They never do.
No, they do. I haven't noted. I'll get to it. There is a scene where they do the Dutch angle. It's like
okay,
only
they do
time
a Dutch
to angle.
Yes, but, like, film from a different direction than square up.
Yeah,
and, like, from 30 feet away.
Well, you're on a boat.
Sure, but, like, show the side of the river. Something. Show me anything other than the aerial shot of the jungle and a direct view of the boat.
We do get a little bit of that, but only towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, we get, like, an abandoned warehouse feeling scene.
Yeah. But he does call him out on his shit. He says, that's the legend of the Maku, which, by the way, is a real group of people, but it's also a pejorative term for a group of 6 peoples in Colombia, Venezuela, and Brazil.
Okay, so, like, probably a name they pulled out of their ass.
Or do they just this people live here. We'll use that term.
But also, didn't they go ahead and make up a fake group to use at the beginning of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
So why not just keep going with that?
Because they gotta establish realism.
They're in the Amazon! They could make up anything!
Yeah. And it's the first time, like, we really see, like, the budding head of goals of what the film crew wants and what their new friend wants.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of, like, the Poulter guy from Tarzan, but, like, less villainy.
That dude had more character to him, though. That dude was awesome.
That dude was awesome, but also, like, he felt like a proper, like, backstabbing sort of villain because, like, he was somewhat charming. He actually did lead them to things. And, like, honestly, like, if he hadn't, tried to murder a man, probably would have been fine.
That just made me think Robin Williams' character is just Darwin from the Wild Thornberrys. But it can actually speak.
That would be hilarious.
But now it's night, in case the establishing shot didn't tell you beforehand. And the other couple, Owen Wilson's character and the other woman, are off to get sounds of the wild, which
is just, fancy talk to be like, we're going to make out in the woods.
Yeah, and on top of that, so here's where we get a bunch of the stuff. Well, they want to do a little bit more, but...
Well, yeah, but, like, keep it PG.
But this is the part, like, throughout this entire movie, Voight has the dumbest fucking expressions of all time.
He's trying. You can tell he was given no direction.
Oh.
Whatsoever. Because we know he's a good actor.
Yeah.
We know he's a great actor, and we know he's a good villain. And he is given no direction on, like, where to aim the villainry.
No, it's just in dumb expression. And it's throughout the entire movie. He looks like he's most of the time, he looks like he's confused of whether he's trying to shit or not.
Yeah. It also looks like he doesn't, like, necessarily, like he's practicing faces and not necessarily, like, ready for the camera.
Yeah.
Like, none of his, like, off the talking point shots make any sense or add anything to this film.
No, not
which is disappointing because, like, they could, again, like, we could have established him as more suave and much more, like, charming and...
He's just creepy from the get-go.
He creepy Dave from the get-go.
Yeah. But the couple gets chased by something and they're saved by creepy dude, which I think is a way to, like, to show off his skills of how good he is at shooting.
Again, if we had written this just a little bit differently and given him slightly different dialogue, this would have all worked.
Yeah.
Which I think they originally tried to do, and, like, somewhere it didn't work.
It's also, I think it's also trying to play off of, like, the trope of, in horror films, the couple that goes off to have sex gets killed early on.
100%, but I'm also not convinced that when they were writing this film, they thought about any of the horror tropes.
No, this scene is just to, like, again, redirect suspense that something's out there, and also get us a nice bra shot.
Yes. Because if they had taken literally any, like, establishing notes or, like, themes from a normal horror movie, not even a creature horror fic, just a normal one, this would have been a better movie. We could have had some interesting camera angles, some interesting lighting. No, we didn't do any of that. We just happened to accidentally have some of the horror tropes.
Nope, exactly. And so we're all, and also we get so many scenes like just back to back because now we're back to the boat in the morning with the host golfing now to classical music.
For a boat that can either not move half of this movie or move at like negative knots per mile, like they don't go anywhere ever.
No.
There's never a point where they're like, all right, everyone, hang on, we're going somewhere.
I don't know if they're going downriver. I don't know if they're going up river.
I'm convinced they haven't moved the whole movie. They're, like, in the port where they left.
But in case you haven't been told already, we're in the Amazon. Yeah,
they do more establishing shots, but they're not even useful establishing shots.
No, it's just more, it's, like I said, you could probably cut a good... I'll take back my original estimate. Probably a good 10 minutes of this movie.
I would argue you'd take out maybe 30 minutes of this movie and it'd be the same movie. You wouldn't even notice, honestly.
No, not at all. Because also, this is the part where the boat does get stuck.
Which, surprise, I didn't realize we were moving.
And we're supposed to show off like some type of leadership, also build up another fear of the kanduri fish, which is the fish that supposedly swims up your urethra, which... There are a few cases, but it's not common.
I also think it's not like think about this logically. Is it really gonna just like whoosh get up in there? Like they're not that small. No. They're big enough that I think you'd have a fighting chance to stop them.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like it'd be more of a problem if it wasn't.
Yeah.
However, for the time period of when this movie came out, the idea of nature documentaries having like shock value or having a lot of top 10 countdowns of wildest crazy animals, which almost always consisted of the same 20 animals. That's probably the whole reason that line is even in this movie, to be honest with you, is because of that sort of reference back. People would have heard of this fish before from one of those top downs or from, like, Wild Facts. Because, like, half of the, like, quote-unquote documentary / educational sort of stuff barely had any actual footage of the animals. A lot of it was, like, animatronic or green screen or animations.
Yeah, I know what shows you're talking about now.
Those were really popular around this time when this came out. So, like, literally any reference to any other animal that, like, is in this movie is meant solely for shock, and it feels like it's information they learned straight from those movies and shows.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so Kale decides to go into the water because, let's send our expert nerd in instead of the guy who's experienced in this area.
They don't make any sense ever. Don't worry about it.
It's just a big dick showing contest. But he gets attacked by what ends up just being a big-ass wasp in his respirator that they didn't know was there.
I don't understand this.
No.
There are so many things in the Amazon that can kill you. This isn't one of them.
I don't know what type of wasp it is. I gave up at, like, looking up the facts by this point, so...
So a wasp this size, there is one that gets kind of close. It's in Asia.
Oh, the giant hornet?
Yeah. There are wasps in the Amazon. They do not get this big. I mean, this sucker's, like, 4 to 5 inches big.
Yeah, which, how it fit in the respirator and they didn't know it was there is, like, the biggest, like, bullshitty thing of, like...
Yeah, I don't understand that. And, like, the other thing that doesn't make any sense is, I think one of the, like, hurried explanations that they give in the scene is, oh, he's going into anaphylactic shock. Which is a thing, and, like, regardless of bug species, I will accept that as an answer to literally any bug that they could have thrown in here.
Yeah.
Could have been a smaller bug, and it would have the same problem. And more realistic. However, a field like, what?
Tracheotomy.
That's it. What?
Yeah, no.
Excuse me?
This is the movie that I thought of as a kid. Well, like, this part was, like, so cool, because this is about the time, like, I wanted to become a doctor.
Yes. There was, in this movie's defense, there was a, like, wave around this, usually a little earlier than this time period, of this specific medical procedure in the field being done as a quote-unquote life-saving thing. This one and the whole stabbing a lung to keep it from collapsing, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
Which, both of those things, no, bad. Unless you are a very trained medical professional, and this is the only option.
Yeah.
This man is dead, and you killed him.
Yeah, and the only point of this is to just give the crew a whole new direction, because now...
And also, like, remove this character entirely.
Yeah, because now Voight's in charge, and now he's trekking them back up river.
Which honestly looks exactly the same as going down river.
Which, I don't know why he didn't just have them go up river from the get-go of, like, here, I know where they are. You guys are all the way past here, instead of, like, having them take them down river, like...
No, because, again, as far as we can tell, there's no maps aboard this boat. There's no, like, books, there's no tomes, there's no anything, there's not even a computer, there's not even, like, a laptop with the screen being like, ooh, but beep, 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 we're going the wrong way. Like, none of that.
Exactly. The only point of this entire scene is to give J-Lo's character motivation because, oh no, love is on the line, even though they've had, like, the hotel flirty scene and flirting over fireflies. That is all we've had of their romance.
And honestly, both of those flirty moments, the only reason we know for certain they're flirting is because they have no other interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, the firefly scene, with a very slight tonal shift in music, could have just been two dudes talking about how one person doesn't know what a fucking firefly is, you dumbass.
Yeah.
And the one from the hotel scene honestly could have just been, like, friendly banter. Like, this is the weakest love sequence of all time.
No, it's just so dumb. Because the next day, surprise, surprise, we're on the Amazon, but on the new path. We're blocked by a wall, and it's time to blow it up. Here is some of the dumbest fucking dialogue in this entire movie.
Oh, please, tell me more.
So, they say, oh, maybe the wall's here to protect the ecological balance.
In the Amazon?
Yeah, like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
In the fucking Amazon? What?
Yeah, because they also use the scene to, like, build up scares like something's hunting them. Because as they're going to blow up this wall, there's that snake view camera kind of bullshit.
Which, again, with some very slight previous, like, scenes, writing, and, like, honestly, any form of set whatsoever, I would have bought a wall holding the snake in as, like, some
warning, don't cross.
Warning.
But there's not, like, any warnings around it. It's just a giant wood wall.
And it's not even, like, set up with ominous lighting or music. There's not, like, any form of, like, signage, pictures, statues, anything. They're not even dead trees.
Well, just
hanging
a
around.
wall.
Yeah, like, there is nothing here to indicate to the audience that we should be, like, worried that they're going to blow up the wall.
Oh, but there is, because once they blow it up, once it's already done,
yeah,
a bunch of snakes are on the boat now. Lots of little baby snakes. Like I said, there's more than just the two snakes.
Yes, I would like to point out that while you never get a real good shot of any of the baby snakes, they are real snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, like, 80% sure that all of those are ball pythons.
I didn't care to pay attention to what they were.
I only know because I enjoy snakes. And I know anacondas are not super easy to work with in the film world. There's a very short list of, like, animals that aren't dogs, cats, and horses that, like, are quote-unquote wild animals that are easy to train and have on screen. And anacondas are not on that list. No. Especially in large quantities.
I don't think any reptile's easy to train.
But have on set and have a handler for, that's a different, like, that qualifies as trained to some extent.
True.
Ball python is a, like, pretty classic fall back onto snake as far as, like, movie handling. They're fairly laid back, they're fairly chill and easy to handle.
I know they're a fun pet, or they're an easy first-time snake owner pet kind of one.
Yeah, like, they're, like, getting this many snakes available on the small budget this movie had would have been feasible. It is a little silly, because we already have CGI happening in this film. Don't know why we couldn't have, put CGI snakes in there. And had them anacondas, and a little bigger. Because, like, right now, these are teeny tiny little baby snakes.
Yes, and there's this one little bit in it that makes me think of, what was it, the second Jurassic Park movie?
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, the dude picks up, like, the little raptor and it bites him.
Yes.
We got one of those where I know it's supposed to be some dumbass form of foreshadowing where they're already trying to eat people, they're man-eaters, and then he says, go back to your mother.
Which is odd because, again, snakes don't do that. Snake hatches, snake goes about its way.
Mm-hmm.
Doing its own thing now. There is no parental figurine.
No.
Like, also, like, these snakes are meant to be itty-bitty baby snakes, and yet they are, like, a foot to 2 long.
There's some other small ones.
There is a little bit smaller. There is at no point baby snake. Enough. None of these snakes are babies.
Tiny snake.
Smaller snake.
Yeah, exactly. It's just some dumb moment. Because now we immediately go back to the boyfriend, which
I don't care about him anymore.
But here's the thing, like, JLo's character is so suspicious, but they're still going with his plan because...
Which makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, because we're supposed to be in this big rush, but no one's rushing because immediately...
The boat goes so slow.
We find the boat from the beginning, and, like, dude really just took control right away. Like, he's like, oh, we're gonna stop here and go check out this boat. Which
makes no sense because, like, we have now on board, and, like, some of the like, dialogue mentions this, I think, like, 2 or 3 times, like, hey, we need to get this man to a hospital, like, soon, like, and they recognize that, like, and of course, the movie's idea of soon is, like, within the next few days, which, like, translates to, like, I think 5 days, is like, no, not 5 days. Now, right this very second, this man needs to go to the hospital. He has a hole in his throat that you stabbed a Slurpee straw through.
I think it was a ballpoint pen.
Yeah! This man is dying!
Yeah. No, exactly. There is no sense of urgency because they take their sweet-ass time exploring this boat, too.
No, and they, like, Louisiana tour boat crawl their way through this part of the river.
Yeah, and the only purpose of the scene, and the only reason it's part of the beginning, is to show that they're out there. Also, one, how the hell did the boat get back in a walled-off area?
I don't know.
And either that or the locals built that wall real fucking quick.
I like that idea better.
But all it is just to establish that their original tour guide, the new guy, and Danny Trejo are all in cahoots and were big snake hunters together.
Which doesn't make any sense and has no establishing shots or eventual dialogue. So, like, I don't... Yeah. Like, none of this works.
And on top of that, like, he finds, like, a crushed gun, like, that we never see used in the intro. Like, it's
That's a good point. Yeah, where'd the gun come from?
I don't know.
Also, like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for, like, finding crushed and broken stuff as, like, ominous tropes, but, like, a shotgun, really? We couldn't have, like, barrels, the boat.
Yeah.
Anything?
No. But
okay.
There's stuff to grab on the boat. Oh, that's also why we stop at the boat, is so that way he can get supplies that we maybe see, like, a scene of, or
but
like...
again, like, the boat hasn't been out long enough to, like, quote-unquote need supplies, so, like, why is the rest of the crew okay with this?
Yeah.
No one has dialogue, so it's a mystery.
Yeah, and immediately as they're off to the boat, the original guide is snake food, and we're 40 minutes into this movie where we finally see the snake actually kill someone. We know Danny Trejo's character is dead, but we don't see it.
Well, and here's the thing, though. We have waited a sufficient amount of time for, like, the suspense buildup. Like, that 40-minute mark is fine. However, we have already, seen the snake in pretty much its entirety. Not like, full in one scene, but, like, we've seen enough of the snake.
This is the first snake we've seen, I'd say. Because we can't confirm that the one that killed the jaguar is this one.
That's true. There could be multiple, and, like, knowing this franchise, that's the answer. But, like, we're led to believe in the first one that there's just the one giant god snake, and I'm okay with that. So we've already, like, had establishing shots of the quote-unquote monster, but also, like, it has only shown up so minuscule amount. It hasn't even been stalking them. It's not hunting anything or anyone while, like, off scene.
No.
There's not snaps to it looming through the jungle. You kind of forgot that the snake was here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Until it just is like, surprise!
Because it's been human drama about nothing.
Yeah, about love and death.
Yeah. Because, I mean, dude dies.
Oh, yeah.
Decent digital and practical effects.
Yeah, I mean, it's very floppy and goofy, but it's fine.
Yeah. They also spend, like, 5 minutes trying to find him, where it's like, well, maybe he just got lost. It's like,
then
from
he's
point
dead.
A to B?
Well, okay, and, like, I would give being lost especially since, again, establishing shot, we're in the Amazon, like, if it showed him struggling any distance into the woods at all. But it doesn't. It pretty much snaps straight to him dying.
Yeah, he's right outside the boat when he dies.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know. This seems like the weakest argument for this man to be dying aboard the boat, and y'all just be standing here.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because they cut from this to them rolling out the massive skin, which
is impressive.
Automatically assumes that this is the snake that ate him, and then they made that response: snakes don't eat people.
Hilarious. Also, I would like to note that the skin that they roll out like a rug makes no sense. A snake shed is what they claim to have had. You cannot roll them out like a rug unless they are moist and very gross. And they also, like, the one guy's like, oh, that's a really old skin. It would be much bigger by now.
Yeah.
Snakes don't, like, spring grow. So he's assuming that this snake skin is very old. I'd like to remind you, again, establishing shot, we're in the Amazon, where it rains several times a day.
Yeah.
This snake skin cannot be that old. It would have disintegrated by now. That's how snake sheds work.
Yeah.
Very dry. You can preserve them. They are very brittle.
Yeah.
They are so soft. So delicate.
So you're telling me I can't make a snakeskin rug?
You can, out of the actual flesh of the snake.
Oh yeah, you can taxidermy it.
You can totally taxidermy
Snake shed skin rug.
See, okay, that's where I'm gonna be a little picky, because they roll this thing out, and it doesn't look like a shed either. It looks like snake skin.
Yeah.
What they have found is someone has filleted a snake
Yeah.
And they're claiming that this snake rips its skin off like a werewolf and grows an extra foot every year.
Yeah, something like that. But, I mean, it's also just there to establish that he's really there for the snake and what his real goal and why they blew up that wall and came here. But they're going to wait until morning, and he's there to schmooze on Wilson's character, that he can't catch it alone, that he needs someone to help him. And think about it, we can save your friend, but we can also make millions off of this.
You could save your friend now by just leaving.
Yeah.
That'd be so much easier.
Toss the dude off the boat. Kick him off the boat.
It'd be so easy.
Although this boat's moving slow enough, he might be able to swim and catch up to it.
Honestly, could wade fast enough. This boat's going so slow.
Yeah. Which now it's hunting prep time, which...
They don't do a very good job of.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stupid shot of, like, Owen Wilson's character going through a book on how to capture the thing, the device that they're going to use to keep it from thrashing around.
This is the first research we have actually seen anyone do in this entire movie.
Excuse me, she was reading her article in her evening wear.
At the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, not good enough. I don't count it.
Yeah, which I do love one line that I think the movie might have been a little bit more self-aware than we give it credit for.
Oh, for sure.
Because we have a mutiny that they're going to be like, well, we'll get the snake. Ice Cube's character says, how we go from taking Kale to the hospital to catching a goddamn snake.
Yes. Yeah. Granted, was that line written for the movie, or was that added?
I feel it was written.
I hope it was written. The amount of backlash that critics gave this movie and how little the director and writers cared about said backlash does imply that they, like, knew and, like, that this all was part of their grand oversight to, like, create a creature flick for, like, summertime fun.
Yeah.
But market it as not that, and then, like, immediately get people to go and be, like, seeing and talking about it. That does track. That would make sense.
Yeah, I can see that, although this was released in spring.
Same difference, though. You know it. We both know it.
Yeah, just one of those filler movies.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, God, just watch, again, like, Voight's character just makes the stupidest fucking facial expressions throughout this entire movie.
It's like he can't hear the rest of the cast.
No. And so from here, this is where we actually get, like, their hunting scene where they're, like, dangling a monkey in the water. And this is where we have the Dutch angle on Owen Wilson.
Okay, and this is where you get the smallest bit of hope that we're going to get really cool cinematography for the actual snake fighting scenes.
No.
And then you are severely disappointed right after the Dutch angle snaps back to normal.
I think they put it in there to make it feel unsettling, but it's just poorly used.
It is poorly used, and the reason it's poorly used is because literally the rest of this film is filmed from like 30 feet away, square on, no lighting used at all. Like, no. I think the only time we get any form of lighting is quote-unquote at night, and their boat is lit up like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Even the outside of the boat is well lit. So, like, yeah, there's no suspense, there's no questions, there's no drama.
No. Well, and I mean, they get the snake on the line, and when it pops its head up, they all look so shocked, like, you guys knew it was huge. Why are you guys so shocked that the snake is big?
I would have taken this better if we had changed how the snake, like, appeared. And, like, played off of the old, like, more fishing sort of, like, scenes where, like, people are, like, reeling something in and being excited that they caught, like, I don't know, something in the ocean, and surprise is a great white. Like, yeah, that sort of, like, tension and surprise would have worked really well. But we've already seen the snake as an audience member. They've already seen the snake because they rolled out its dead skin, like, not even 10 seconds ago.
Yep.
Yeah, why are we surprised? The only thing that, like, doesn't make sense is the snake pops its head out and is like, oh, hi guys, Muppet style.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I am intelligent enough that I know what to do in this sort of scenario. No,
exactly. Well, here's the thing, because the snake is smart throughout, like, this whole thing, like...
This is a very intelligent snake.
Yeah, it's, like, knocking people off the boat, it's knowing what it's doing, but there's that one part where, like, the snake, like, whips its face around and gives it, like, a model pose.
It does! And, like, there is such a jarring and obvious switch that this movie doesn't bother to try and hide at all between the CGI snake, the giant, I think it was like 10-foot animatronic swivel head snake, the smaller animatronic head snake, and then the straight up Muppet puppet snake. Mm-hmm. And there is no warning, no like easing into any of these transitions. Within the same scene, the same shot, you are going to go from seeing the CGI snake splashing around the water, looking pretty good, actually. Mm-hmm. Actions don't make sense, but he looks good, to a Muppet almost like whispering in someone's ear, being like, slithery snake.
It's so bad. And on top of that, like, it takes a drink to the mouth, yet is still able to kill Owen Wilson's character, which...
Yeah, I'm okay with
it works if you're trying to read deeper because he's killed because of his betrayal.
Yeah, okay. Again, there's a lot of things in this movie that could have worked, and one of those being like, oh, when they said God Snake, we assumed they meant just because it was big, not that it was immortal. Yeah. Like, there could have been, like, some dialogue, there could have been some research, some, like, you know, pictures on the wall, literally anything. There's nothing.
No.
This snake is just invulnerable for no reason.
No, exactly.
Oh, also its hide is incredibly thick and dense and, like, is ricocheting their weapons from it. And they're, like, worried that, like, oh, if we hit it with a trank anywhere but the mouth, it's not gonna stick. Yeah. It's a snake, guys.
And if I remember, I think there's supposed to be 2 snakes in this movie, and this is, like, the male one, the smaller one.
Yeah, they don't really explain that very well, though.
No.
It is briefly mentioned, because later on we're gonna get to the female one. However, it's not well explained. And this movie's pacing is so shit that you legit forget when and where you are. Yeah, you have like an out-of-body experience of just being like, snake.
Yeah, because we are actually kind of towards the end of the movie, because there's a funny bit where the producer is forced to do the bidding of the guy and be the bag boy, which he did earlier on in the movie, several roles. But also, like, the snake is following them, and we get that cheesy-ass shot of, like, the body and the face pressed against the...
It's so Muppety looking.
So bad.
It's so bad.
And then right from here, J-Lo goes to try and seduce him, which...
Okay, we know, like, in half a second what's happening. Because, like, this movie has no ability to hold a suspense. However, there was no build-up for the audience to, like... Because the audience has been above everything else so far. We have known, we have been all-knowing, we've been all-seeing up until this point. We are, as an all-knowing, seeing audience, are surprised by this action because they don't bother to give us any, like, whispers from the rest of the crew as to, like, the mutiny that's about to occur.
Yeah, no,
we just get to be surprised with the bad guy.
Well, they don't even, like, do a planning scene for it because, like... She immediately just goes to him and, like, basically does what Gary was gonna do of, like, oh, well, I'll join you, you know, if we really think we can make the... Well, here's what we'll do. We'll film you. We'll
make you the star.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I want to smooch you. Like, it's the strangest scene, and then out of nowhere, it's like, surprise mutiny! Yeah. And he's like, surprise mutiny yourself! I have a gun! Yeah. And you're like, okay, what was the point of this entire scene?
Yeah, and eventually they do take back over, which...
mean, they could have done that a long time ago, because there was 3 of them and 1 of him, but, like, whatever.
Yeah. Now it's time to try and go home to the pleasures of civilization, where...
It's an awkward way to phrase it, but yeah.
Yeah, which we see a pair of totems and the waterfall of legend, as said earlier.
Okay, this is the only part of the movie that has any form of actual set design to it, and it's so weak that if you are blinking when this scene happens, you will immediately think we have somehow moved from the Amazon to legitimately a warehouse floating in the, like, glaciers of Florida.
Yeah, we're almost to the warehouse.
This makes no sense.
No, because on top of this, so we get, they get stuck again, and everyone just goes right into the water. Oh, why? I have no clue.
No, they make no effort here.
And on top of that, the romance interest of Owen Wilson's character goes to kill him, and he kills her instead, like by strangling her with his legs while reciting prayer for some stupid reason.
Which, if they had, like, baked the whole priestliness into him more, I would have believed it and found it, like, almost an interesting character thing. And we've seen that before in westerns. They is very good about doing that. A lot of anime even is very good at, like, making that into a character who clearly is not a priest, is out here murdering people with giant-ass guns. But...
Helsing?
Yeah, that's one way. But, like, he doesn't have guns. He has little bayonets, stabs people. But there are others. There's an entire genre, and you know it.
Yeah, I have... I was thinking Trinity Blood is the one that...
Trinity Blood is a great example of, like, those are not priests. They're just people cosplaying as priests. But it's baked into their character enough that, like, when they suddenly start reciting Holy Scripture, like, constantly throughout the film, you're like, okay, well, it's a weak character trait, but it's a character trait. I'll take it.
Boondock Saints.
Boondock Saints is a great example.
Yeah. But the snake is on them and the asshole escapes.
Surprise.
I do actually like this scene because the fight is fun.
Oh, it is very fun.
The midair grab is awesome.
Just in general, the action portion looks great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's silly. It makes me a little seasick to watch it, but it is fun.
Yeah, they're able to kill the snake.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Or did they? Bum.
Yeah, but they knock him out as he falls in the river too, which is just dumb.
Yeah.
And then we get some kind of like building of suspense, and we get these weird sideways shots as they go into the building that they've stumbled upon.
Yeah, which we've established multiple times only via telling the audience that we are going for a long-lost tribe that they want to, like, interview and, like, learn more about. And yet this warehouse looks straight out of, like, the back lot of a Walmart.
Yeah. There's no survival. It's not like Predator where they're out on, like, a hunting trip or they're out on a military practice.
Yeah, which would have made sense why there's a random building. Like, that happens all the time on base.
Or they're just also, or why they're in the jungle. Like, this movie is basically on one moving room for the most part until this scene.
I would argue that it's not even on a moving room. I would argue that they have just slightly changed the angle of the boat throughout the entire thing. This is one set, and they have rotated it slightly. No,
exactly. It takes place in a moving room, the boat being the room.
Okay, I will accept that the boat is the room in this instance, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the stupidest background scene of all of them.
And, I mean, something's hunting them. We get those hunting shots again that don't matter most of the time because it doesn't lead to anything.
And also, it is so hard to tell that those hunting shots are not just more filler shots of the Amazon that, like, you forget kind of, like, what these are supposed to be for. Because they're, like, from the snake's perspective, kind of, but, like, it's so badly done.
Yeah.
That it's not even, like, oh, it's badly done in, like, Harry Potter 2, where the snake's in the walls whispering, like, speaking to itself. Like, over there, tee-hee-hee, I'm gonna eat the children. This is just like a man running through the forest with a camera on the ground.
Yeah, no, that's really what it feels like. And on top of that, like, they get knocked out, and we see more dead monkeys, and Voight's character is still alive and on the hunt.
I have questions about the dead monkeys.
Yeah, where exactly is he getting all these monkeys?
Where are we getting all the monkeys? And why are they dead?
The Amazon Depot Dead Monkey Store.
You know what? For this film, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, which the slow motion with the blood is so bad. And oh, man. But
I kind of like it.
Yeah, this is where I find out there's an even bigger snake, which is the female snake, which is true. The females of these species are generally larger.
Yes. And, like, granted, does she look like a green anaconda? No, not really. Does she look a bit like just, like, vaguely Anaconda-esque?
Generic large snake.
Yeah, she's generic large shapes.
Yeah. Which...
She's noodle-shaped.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's a trap, but...
Of course it is.
The way he goes about it is the snake's about to go kill them, and that's when he moves in. Like,
I don't understand either.
Let the snake kill him and then shoot the snake while it's eating, while it's occupied.
See, that's the thing that also doesn't make any sense to me, because they kind of sort of imply that the snake is always hungry, but also they know that that's not how snakes physically can function. So
this is the only part we get, because the snake does get him, but it starts hunting the other ones and throws him back up in front of her, and the stupid wink he gives.
I don't understand at all. Like, how is he dead? Is he alive and then dies?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And also, like, they never properly explain the whole snake puking to just eat more people thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, that is the most unsnake-like thing I've ever heard of.
The only I do know snakes will regurgitate if they're too heavy to get away from something.
Yes, and the snake is clearly not having that problem.
But it's here's what it is. Or at least what I think it is. They wrote the script, and they had to put that in the beginning to explain this one moment.
I agree with you. I also think that they wrote this film with almost no actual knowledge of snakes. And at some point, too far into the writing process, or even the filming process, to change the fact that they have multiple victims for one snake. Which they then changed to 2 snakes, but I stand by my thought that this was meant to be 1 snake the whole time, and they just, wrote in the second snake bit real fast.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even die convincingly.
No, and even then, the snake's barely there. It starts going on the rampage, and then they light it on fire, and it's a cool death and a cool kill, but...
And honestly, the CGI of the snake for this whole section looks really good. The special effects of the dead guy winking look terrible. They're just slimy and gross, but
it's not even special effects. It's just practically oh, here's a bunch of KY jelly. Get to be your own slippery snake.
Yes. This is where we get to see the full 10-foot animatronic snake long neck piece, and that looks really cool. We also get to see the live prop of the inside of the snake tunnel, which clearly looks like some fabric with pool noodles holding it up, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
However, we then cut to CGI snake eating the man with practical effects built into it. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That's fairly believable looking. I'm okay with that. So why? Again, you almost get whiplash with how many times you change not only the angle that we're looking at and what we're looking at, but the clear movability of the prop of the snake.
Yes, it was very limited in what they could do, and I still think it's a pretty cool effect. But God, it just ends up being so useless and bad. Okay,
but it's a very cool effect, and yes, they were limited in what they could do, but whereas something like Jaws, which was also limited in what they could show and could do, thus dictating them having to make it more suspenseful by not showing, because their things kept sinking.
Yeah. This one didn't have that issue.
No. Instead, we almost see too much, because, you don't have any break in your brain between CGI snake and Muppet snake.
Yeah.
So it almost doesn't even look like the same snake. That's how, different they look.
Yeah, no, exactly. And now we know the snakes were a pair. It's the mate that's come back for revenge for some reason.
And again,
we don't.
Again, I am 100% convinced that this was originally written as a 1-snake plot, and then they added the second snake in because someone mentioned that snakes can't eat that much.
Yeah.
And then they went, oh shit, we still are too many people deep for them to eat these people. We need to have them puke them up.
We gotta redirect. We need a bigger shark.
Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like. Because, there is no reason for there to be a second giant snake.
No. And on top of that, the snake dies and we're immediately back on track because they find the tribe and then sail off into the sunset.
We still haven't gone to the fucking hospital, guys.
No.
We never go to the hospital.
We don't know if they stick around to talk to the tribe. We don't know if they get killed by the tribe. They just head back home.
The other thing that isn't made clear is they regularly talked about how this tribe worships this snake.
Mm-hmm.
And, they very loosely, with the worst props and settings imaginable to man, imply that the tribe is keeping this snake. They have just killed this tribe's god.
Yeah, that's accurate because they just barely get they just barely get out. We don't know because it's again.
Oh, and here's
more Amazon.
Well, and then here's the other thing that really grinds my gears on this movie. But I also kind of to kill the snake is they kind of blow up the snake, but of course they can't just blow up the snake. It just catches on fire and then is in the water on fire, chasing them for a little bit, and then it goes under the water.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's dead.
I don't know. I mean,
there's no way. It fell that far. Because it fell from a tall chimney stack. Which also, by the way, what again? How is this building here?
I don't know. It's just so dumb.
It's so dumb. They blow it up. It is fully engulfed on fire. But then when it lands in the water, just part of it's on fire, it doesn't seem to be upset that it's on fire.
No.
It's really focused on eating them. And then, like,
Revenge.
Yeah, like, partway through it catching a bridge on fire, it goes, oh, man, it's kind of toasty in here.
Yep. Oops, I'm dead now.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But we never confirm body count, like, no double tap. This snake is still alive as far as I'm convinced.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like, it doesn't appear in the sequels. Like, there's other snakes.
Of course there's other snakes. We just watched it produce other snakes.
Yeah, which, I honestly, rewatching this as an adult and a much more experienced film watcher.
Yes.
No wonder this movie was critically panned as well as, like, critically and just in general audience. Like, it got nominated for 6 Razzie Awards. It didn't win any of them.
It didn't win any Razzies. It won a different version of a Razzie Award, though, in the same year. Yeah, which, from here, it developed a cult following, which I was a little confused on reading before watching it. And I immediately developed it, though. And I kind of get it, though, because it's fun. Yeah. It's so bad. It makes no sense, but it is so much unnecessary drama. It is so much unnecessary action and adventure that, like, it's a hoot to watch. Yeah, and here's the thing. So I specifically, because I found out about more of the sequels, I bought the entire collection for this movie. Good for you, as you should. Doesn't have any special features on the original, but it has special features on the second movie. Yes, it does. Which, actually, the second movie is not bad either. It's just basically kind of the same movie. They're all kind of the same, with minus its crossover addition to Lake Placid. Except they have a better, the second movie has a better, plot of, like, why they're out there, and actually gives it a good MacGuffin other than this tribe. Yes. No, I agree that, honestly, I think as they progress, I think the story makes more sense each time they write it. No, it doesn't. So the third one, they get the orchids. The third one, they bring the snakes, or they bring a snake to the U.S. Okay. Into a secret lab, and it gets out and murders a bunch of people. I love that. That makes more sense than this. It's not a lot. It doesn't, because, like, the side effect of, like, the that's the one with David Hasselhoff. Oh yeah, okay. The side effect is that it grows like a horn on its tail, or like a spike on its tail. Oh yeah, or a spear that it starts stabbing people with it. I'd forgotten about the spear. Yeah, okay, it's a little goofy. Weirdly enough, I like the fourth one better than the third one. The fourth one actually continues the story of the third one. Oh. Unfortunately, with both of these movies, the guy who plays Gimli's in both of them. Good for him. No, they're so bad. Yes. But Lake Placid, that one. That one. I mean, Lake Placid to begin with, it was a fun and goofy movie. This one is even dumber, and oh my god, it just... The main characters in that one, or the entire cast in that one, is just a sci-fi reason to show tits. I love it. So the cast and crew were under the impression, again, that was meant to be a good movie, guys. To the point that J-Lo, I went through and scrubbed looking for interviews from the cast and crew about this film, and there is almost none with the director or writers. They pretty much were like, yeah, we made it, deal with it. Yep. There's a little bit of behind-the-scenes interviews and some footage of them making the snake props, which is interesting, especially if you're into early animatronics. And, like, just... I'd say mid-animatronics. Yeah. This is, like, almost 30 years after Star Wars. So. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, it's 20 years after Star Wars. It should have looked better than it did, don't get me wrong. However, like, there's some really cool shots of it without the skin on, and, like, at some point, some thought was put into, like, one of the animatronics. The rest of them, no effort put in. No. But one of them looks cool, and there was, like, some interesting, like, discussion on, like, how it was going to move, how to make it snake-like. So that was a cool interview. The only cast member that I could find any, like, real meat on the bone as far as, like, the interview was Ice Cube. He's the only one who's really talked about his experience on this movie. J-Lo has multiple times expressed that she refuses to talk about this movie. She would really like you to forget that she was ever in this movie. She has, like, you know, straight up been like, I am not doing this interview if you ask me about this movie. See, I like that hubris where he's just like, yeah, it's a bad movie, I was in it. He does say that, however, unlike others that we have talked about who have, like, experienced being in a bad movie and then, like, handled it with some level of grace of, like, yeah, it was bad, I did enjoy doing it, but, like, you know, it's what it is. Mm-hmm. Ice Cube was furious at the end of this movie because they spent, like, $10,000 some on the snake animatronic. Just one of them, and that wasn't including the CGI budget for the snake too, which was more. And so he complained very vehemently that he believes the snake was paid more than any of the actors. And again, he thought he was like going to be promised an up-and-coming stardom because of this movie.
Yeah.
So he was furious that not only did this movie flop as bad as it did, but like he truly felt that he was misled in that he thought the rest of his cast and crew was also misled into what this movie was going to be and how this movie was going to be portrayed. He thought this was going to be much more serious than it actually was. And like, there's no effort for this movie to be serious at all. You cannot look at this movie and tell me at any point that they wrote this to be serious.
He would have done better in the second movie, because the second movie is actually pretty serious.
And part of the reason that no one came back to play in this movie, despite the fact that, with the exception maybe of J-Lo, all of these actors later on or previously had come back to do silly, goofy roles just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
A large part of the reason they didn't come back for any of the sequels was because they felt like they had been lied to with this film. Again, they had come into this looking for a serious role, not a goofy, silly role.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and so to that point, like, I think, especially watching these movies back to back, it feels like Anaconda was a rough outline.
Yeah.
And it was like the practice run for what would be Anaconda Hunt for the Blood Orchid.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah.
Like, again, the acting's not that bad in this film. Like, they do a pretty good job. The writing's garbage.
Yeah, you can only do so much with bad writing. And I get Voight's dumb facial expressions if that's the reason, but... And
like, the CGI snake looks great. One of the props looks great. The other two props look garbage.
Yeah.
The cinematography is bad.
Oh.
The music is bad. The lighting is bad. The set is bad. This whole movie, minus like 2 things, is bad. But it clearly, they knew that it was going to be bad, and they wrote it in. And then lied to everyone, saying that this movie was going to be good. In fact, I looked through for like trailers and previews for it, and even the trailers and previews present this movie as a very serious horror flick.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be the next Jaws or some shit.
Yes, or like even more like spooky horror based. Like they very much like advertised it as like this very suspenseful sort of like horror that would eventually end up with a little bit of like monster horror as opposed to goofy snake.
Yeah. So I guess, Chris, on our good, bad, weird scale, what do you rate Anaconda?
Oh, this is good, bad for me. I love this movie.
Oh, hands down, yeah.
I love this movie.
It's so dumb and entertaining, like, especially rewatching it.
Oh, yes.
And everything. Like, there's just so much dumb bullshit that happens that...
all the time.
If you take this movie seriously... you're watching the movie for the wrong reasons.
I could understand how people who went to see this movie in theaters were upset that they saw this movie in theaters. I would not spend very much money to watch this movie.
Oh yeah, same here. I mean, it's
However, this movie was played on TV endlessly to the point where it got accidentally played on South African like daytime primetime TV. And it became a running gag of the country. They played it like multiple times a year for ages, like since 2000. They have played it multiple times a year.
I don't blame them. So, do you recommend this movie? I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, granted, with a grain of salt, like, the place and time for everything, blah, blah, blah. However, now that I have rewatched it and remembered myself enjoying it this much, the moment my friend comes back into town, we're having a girls' night, we're rewatching this.
Yeah, no, I mean, the friend who I've met, like, once, I know this is exactly her type of movie.
Yeah, we're immediately watching this when she comes back.
Yeah, it's a good movie to have on in the background if you're doing some other stuff.
Yeah, don't worry about what happened. You didn't miss anything. Just roll with it.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Exactly. So, but now it's time for the section of our show, the 3 Degrees of Takashi Miike.
Originally, before I did any research, I thought to myself, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the time. However, there's so many big actors in this film that I'm kind of worried.
So this one was actually hard to get away from, like, Hostel or anything, because that's the issue. There's so many big actors in it that everyone was, like, 2 degrees of Takashi Miike.
Very good.
For year 5 of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast, we've decided to do a game. The rules, as always, 3 degrees to get to Miike. Has to be a movie connection. Can't use the same connection, i.e. movie actor, writer, or director twice. As well, I'll try to make it plot-wise and thematic as possible. If I win, next season we get a full month of Takashi Miike.
Fair.
Chris wins, we get an entire film of Barbie, which I'm wondering if it was actually inspired by the Barbie movie coming out. Or
I am so stoked for the Barbie movie, but no. Look, I have recently redug into the Barbie movie franchise and trilogy.
Oh, jeez.
I say trilogy. It's not a trilogy. I think there's 21 movies.
God damn it.
And that's not with the new one coming out, and that doesn't include any of the documentaries. And I do, in fact, plan on covering at least one of the documentaries, because they are very interesting, and she is a huge portion of American culture.
Okay. So, this one's a tad of a stretch for me.
Alright.
It's the first movie that we have the same thing used as its second use.
Oh.
I used Frank Welk,
Uh-huh.
who was the voice of the Anaconda.
I forgot to mention during the actual thing, the Anaconda screams, like, ah!
It was in 1998's Godzilla,
Yeah.
the Matthew Broderick one.
Yeah, I remember.
With Masaya Kato, who was in Terraform Mars, directed by Takashi Miike.
Yes,
so now we have our first movie cross off the list that I can't use again.
Alright.
So, big bug, big snake.
I'll take it.
I couldn't find anything else to really tie them.
Like,
I don't think Japan has like a lot of like natural horror films like we do here.
not in the same way. From what we learned when we looked into Godzilla, they are much more into like reinterpretations of big events.
I even recently, because I've actually been watching The Last of Us. It reminded me of this movie Attack of the Mushroom People. I can't remember its actual like Japanese name, but it's also a spawn from radioactive movies.
Yeah, there's definitely more of an emphasis in like personifying big events.
Yeah, so.
Well, good job, you won.
For this time so far.
I'm holding my breath, but we'll see. Yeah. Either way, it'll be a good time.
Oh, yeah. But, anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace! Thank you for stopping by this here town of The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace!